And we thank you very much for joining us on the starting lineup, and welcome back. Beautiful Friday in the Ozarks. Ned Reynolds, and indeed a host of characters coming up. But in the meantime, the second segment of the starting lineup is brought to you by Play It Again Sports in the Fremont Shopping Center. Battlefield in Fremont, Springfield. Everything you want in sports right there at Play It Again Sports. Swing Right Golf at the south end of Campbell Avenue, about a little bit north of Nixa. And you'll have a great time there relaxing and doing all sorts of games at Swing Right Golf. By Citizens Bank of Rogersville with two locales, one adjacent to Highland Springs and the other in Rogersville itself, and by Marshfield Chevrolet at the I-44 exit. A couple of left turns, you're on the north side of I-44, and you will be driving right into Marshfield Chevrolet. Great having you with us, folks. I'm Ned Reynolds, along with
Dwight Glenn.
And
one of the characters, Art Hains.
Arthur, good morning. Everything all right with you, sir?
Good morning. Yeah, doing fine.
Very good, sir. Very good. Guy Newcomb is doing the directing of the show, and I want you, if you will, Guy, to get on the microphone and introduce Mr. McDonald, who is coming up here for us and about to articulate, if you will.
Very, very pleased to have Darragh McDonald. He's just outside of Toronto, but he's part of MajorLeagueTradeRumors.com and our Major League Baseball TradeRumors.com. But Darragh, hey, thank you so much. I know we've been texting each other back and forth here, but thanks so much for being part of the show this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, here we'll start off with the the biggest conversation point of all, and that's Tarik Skubal of the Detroit Tigers. Not too very far away from where you are right now. What do you hear about it, and what are the chances he's wearing a Tigers uniform at this time next week?
The chances do seem to be dropping by the day. The loss the other day in the game that he started really was terribly symbolic for the Tigers. They had a 7-0 lead when Skubal was on the mound, and somehow they ended up losing to the Orioles. So they now find themselves a few games out of a playoff spot. It's a very, very, very tough decision for the Tigers to make. You know, you have arguably the best pitcher on the planet right now. Do you hold him and go for a World Series run before he becomes a free agent in a few months? Do you trade him because that's the best thing for your future, add a few prospects? Very, very tough decision. It does seem, based on what everyone in the industry is saying, that a trade is becoming more likely. But who knows? There's still a few games to play. Maybe if they're playing the Athletics this weekend, who are not a strong team. Maybe if the Tigers can pull off a sweep this weekend, maybe they keep Skubal. I don't know. But it certainly seems like he's got one foot out the door right now.
If indeed he is traded, I've seen speculation the Braves are very interested in him, but so is that team out west that seems to get everybody that they want, the Dodgers. Have you heard any scuttlebutt as to which team might have the most advantage in actually trading for him should that occur?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of talk about the Dodgers for sure. The three teams I've heard most often connected to him are the Dodgers, the Brewers, and the Rays. And I think that's due to a few reasons. Number one, those teams are all having very strong seasons. They are all currently leading their respective divisions. The Dodgers are leading in the National League West, the Brewers in the Central, the Rays are leading the AL East. They also coincidentally have the three best farm systems in baseball, according to Baseball America. They have the Brewers number 1, the Rays number 2, Dodgers number 3. So that means that those teams are A, motivated to win this year, right now. They could use somebody as good as Skubal for the 2026 season. And B, they have the prospects that could get a deal done. You know, Detroit, if they're going to pull the trigger on this thing, they're going to want some really, really, really big pieces that are going to help them in the future. And so those are the three teams I've heard most connected. I know it's probably a lot of fans are just going to assume that the Dodgers will get him because they do get a lot of guys, all the big name guys. I do wonder, though, if anyone is looking for reasons to maybe have hope that it won't be the Dodgers. The Dodgers are a somewhat older team. Most of their core players are in their mid-30s now. Freeman, Muncy, Mookie Betts, these kinds of guys. And their front office has said openly that they don't want to hit some kind of cliff where suddenly everybody on the team is 40 and they're not good anymore and they have to do some sort of lengthy rebuild. And so I do think that they probably want to hang on to some prospects and start a new era where they are replacing these guys in their mid to late 30s with younger players. And so they might not want to just destroy their farm system as much as I'm sure they love Skubal, but they might not want to tank their future to that level. But if they want him, they could do it.
Arthur?
So, Darragh, what other big names might be on the trading block?
Another one that's getting a lot of chatter next to Skubal, Mason Miller, is getting a lot of attention. He's a very interesting one because the Padres, they just gave up a huge package of prospects to get Miller only a year ago, including trading Leo DeVries, who's one of the top 5 prospects in the game. They did that to get Miller for 4.5 years, and he still has 3.5 years of club control. And so they certainly don't need to trade him, but the Padres are in a weird spot. They are, I believe, just a game and a half outside of a playoff spot or something similar to that. They are right in the race, but they've had some payroll concerns in the past few years and haven't been able to be as aggressive in free agency as they would like. And so what they've done is they've decimated their farm system to make big trades over the past few years. And so now they're in a position where they have the worst farm system in baseball, according to basically anybody who looks at that kind of stuff. And so how do you upgrade your team if you have a terrible farm system? How do you make a big trade deadline kind of splash? They have holes in the rotation they need to address. The bottom of their lineup has a couple holes. But they have this amazing bullpen. In addition to Mason Miller, they have Adrian Morejon and Jeremiah Estrada and Bradley Rodriguez and Yuki Matsui. Really strong bullpen. And so what they could do, obviously holding Miller is appealing to them. He's a huge part of their success this year, and they could just hold him. But what they might have to consider is trading Mason Miller for a big package that helps them now and in the future. We saw them do something like this a few years ago where they made a big trade to get Juan Soto out of Washington. He was a part of their team, but then they needed some pitching, couldn't afford it. So they traded Soto to the Yankees to get Michael King and prospects. Then they traded one of the prospects in that deal, Drew Thorpe, to the White Sox to get Dylan Cease. And so maybe they go down that road again, put Mason Miller on the table, get some pitching from somewhere, use some of the prospects to get more pitching, because right now the rotation is basically Michael King and 4 question marks. So Mason Miller is one that is also very exciting for the next few days. And yeah, I would say, the Blue Jays are an interesting one who could suddenly enter into the race if they enter into the seller category. They have just had a poor time coming out of the All-Star break, and so now that could put guys like Kevin Gausman, Shane Bieber, George Springer out there on the trade block. And so, yeah, those are a few teams that I'm keeping my eye on.
Darragh McDonald is, of course, from Major League Baseball Trade Rumors, and indeed has all of the details on this. Darragh, I want to ask you a quick question about the attitude of the fans up in Toronto. You are in that area. Cardinals play up there tonight. How do the fans react, and how has been the reaction to a team that's a World Series ball club last year that has had problems?
Yeah, obviously a big vibe shift from last year. It's very, very confusing because, the 2025 Blue Jays were interesting. The moves that the team made going into that season mostly did not work. Their big free agent signing was Anthony Santander, who was basically injured the whole time. And yet all their incumbent players seem to have career years. Guys who didn't really have previous track records, Ernie Clement and Addison Barger and guys like that. And so their success mostly came internally. This year is the opposite. Most of their signings have actually worked out well. They gave Dylan Cease a big contract. He's might be the front runner for the Cy Young right now because he's having an amazing season. Tyler Rogers, they signed him. He's having a good season. But all their incumbent players are playing far worse than last year. Vladdy's having a really bad season relative to his standards. Alejandro Kirk, and even Gausman and some of the pitchers. And so I don't know if it's a hangover from going on that World Series run kind of thing where maybe they didn't recover as well as they would have liked. But the vibes in the fan base are certainly worse than they were a year ago. And it is amazing how quickly it can change because, everybody was in a great mood last year, and now the people calling into the radio shows are asking for people to be fired and all that kind of stuff. It changes quickly.
We are sitting 3 hours away from two major league teams here in Missouri, St. Louis and Kansas City. They're both a little bit disappointing. St. Louis kind of overperformed for a while, but have come back down to earth. And by the way, either one of our teams locally will take some of that Padres relief pitching because neither one of our teams has any. But are you hearing anybody from St. Louis and Kansas City other than the obvious candidates that may be on the trading block here in the next 3 days?
With St. Louis, it does seem, even though they've hovered in the race, it does seem that they are more focused on the future than they are the 2026 season, because they, as I'm sure you are aware, in the most recent offseason, they traded away Arenado and Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras and Brendan Donovan to try to make room for younger players and pivot to a new era. And even though they've hovered around 500 and we're kind of in the wild card race, it does seem like the front office is still kind of committed to this future-focused plan. So I do think that the impending free agents are going to be on the trade block. So that would be Dustin May, Ryan Stanek, Jojo Romero, Ramon Urias. They could also perhaps make Lars Nootbaar available. He is controlled through 2027. But that was the same case for Donovan when they made the trade for him. Nootbaar might have been in the same bucket as Donovan. He might have been traded in the most recent offseason if he wasn't recovering from surgery. And so I think they might trade him, and then they could use the playing time in the outfield to get a look at somebody like Joshua Baez, who's hitting a million home runs down there in AAA. And so they could get him up and see he strikes out a lot. So you probably want to see if his strikeout concerns will carry over into the major leagues and how bad it would be. So it would be nice to use a few months here to see how he faces major league pitching and decide, is this guy going to be in our starting outfield in 2027 or not? And so I think they might do that. They also have the opportunity to do something behind the plate because they have a lot of catching depth. None of these guys are approaching free agency, so they don't have to trade any of them. But they have, at the major league level, they have Ivan Herrera and Jimmy Crooks and Pedro Pages right now. They have two great catching prospects in the minors. Leo Bernal is in AAA and Rainel Rodriguez is in AA. It seems like Rodriguez is probably the catcher of the future because he is considered most outlets considered him one of the top 25 prospects in the game. And so at some point, they already kind of have a little bit of a playing time crunch because they have the three catchers in the big leagues. Crooks and Pages are not getting a ton of playing time. Herrera is splitting his time between catching and designated hitter. He's a great hitter, but he's terrible at the running game. I think he's thrown out one base stealer in the past 2 years.
That stealer that runner probably fell down if he actually threw him out.
Yeah. And so they probably need to open up some space. And so does that mean they would make Herrera available? Would they prefer to trade Crooks? I don't know what their preferences would be, but they might surprise us with something bold there. With the Royals, I think that they are probably going to be quieter, and I think it's just an unfortunate situation with their circumstances where obviously they're not having a great season, but they are hopeful of contending again next year, which makes sense. They have, you have an MVP caliber player like Bobby Witt Jr. He's in his prime. You want to try to win while you have an amazing talent like that on your roster. And so they're probably going to keep guys like Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha, who will have some trade appeal, but they want those guys to be a part of the 2027 rotation. And so that doesn't leave a lot left to trade. I mean, they might be able to do well with Thomas because he is a right-handed hitter, and this year's market, there are lots of lefty bats available and not a lot of righty bats. And so Lane Thomas isn't a superstar or anything like that, but just because of the market conditions, they might be able to do well with him. It's a shame that some of their other impending free agents are hurt. Jonathan India would have been out there if he did not have the shoulder surgery. Chris Bubich would have been a very attractive candidate if he were healthy, but he's had injury problems. And so I suspect that the Royals will, maybe they can trade Bubic for something, because even though he's on the injured list right now, someone might take a flyer on him. But Lane Thomas might be the biggest move that they make in the next few days.
Arthur?
Darragh, several contenders are in need of catchers. I hear Hunter Goodman's name bandied about.
Yeah, Hunter Goodman is a very interesting one. You know, the Rockies historically have been very averse to trading almost anybody. They have been arguably the team in the league that most clings to its own guys. Some extreme examples over the years, you know, they had Trevor Story a couple of years ago, and as he was reaching free agency, they didn't trade him at all. John Gray was in a situation where the team was not doing well. They could have traded Story and John Gray for prospects. They just did not. They said they didn't get an offer they liked, so they just held them and let them walk for essentially nothing. They got a draft pick in Trevor Story's case, but and even, you know, somebody like, they got a breakout season from Daniel Bard a few years ago when he was 37, and instead of trading him, they decided to sign him to a 2-year extension that didn't work out. But now they have a new front office regime, and they just parted ways with their general manager at the end of last season. They have a new guy in there now, Paul De Podesta, who kind of got famous for being part of the Moneyball A's. You know, I don't know if you saw the movie, but the Jonah Hill character is supposedly based on him. Analytical guy. And so I don't know if they have changed their approach, but the thing about Goodman is that even if you are willing to trade some guys, he is controlled for another 3 seasons after this one. So the Rockies certainly don't need to trade him, but they would have to ask themselves, you know, if you're the Rockies, are we going to be good in the next 3 years? You know, we have Hunter Goodman through 2029. This is a team that's been losing 100 games a year. The past 3 seasons, they might do it again here for a 4th straight year. Do they have a window to be good within that window that they have Hunter Goodman for? And so they might be tempted to listen when you think about it that way. And so I think that he could be out there, but he would also, the price is higher when the window of control is longer. You know, you certainly, other teams would have to pay more for a player like Goodman than somebody who is a rental. And he also has huge power that's hard to find behind the plate. He had 31 home runs last year. He's already got up to that number this year, even with, you know, still a few months to play. So he could have a 50 homer season here in 2026. And so I think that he is probably available, but I don't know exactly if any team is going to meet the Rockies' asking price.
Darragh, with the Springfield Cardinals, or the St. Louis Cardinals AA Farm Club, and it's here in this town, so I'm very impressed with the fact that you were able to pick out Rainel Rodriguez, and Liam Doyle is another one of the key prospects, along with Cijntje, who is a kid from Mississippi State via Curacao, and he's ambidextrous. So there are 3 individuals on whom you'll need to concentrate in the future, especially Rodriguez, who is 19 years old, is just an unbelievable physical prospect. He's a really good catcher. Quick question before we let you go. Do you expect a flurry of trades that'll happen on Monday, or will this be gradual, or will there be a multitude of them, in your opinion?
I do think it will be a very slow buildup, and then the day of the deadline on Monday is where the vast majority of the activity will take place. We have seen there's a couple of things. The modern front offices, they love to have as much information as possible before making any kind of decision. And so we see with even more rudimentary things like the non-tender deadline or the deadline to add a player to your roster to keep him out of the Rule 5 draft. They wait until the last possible second to make their decisions. And so that is part of it. And then also with the expanded playoffs, the past few years, since we've had 12 teams make the playoffs, so many teams are in this borderline spot like we were talking about with the Tigers and Skubal earlier, where they're not sure, are we making a run this year? Are we blowing it all up for next year? And so they stay in that holding pattern as long as possible. And so I think what you're going to see is we have seen a couple of trades come in already. There was the Logan O'Hoppe trade. There was the AJ Minter trade. Mm-hmm. We'll probably have 2 or 3 trades a day through the weekend. And then on Monday, we will probably have about 50 trades.
All right, Darragh, one final question. This is more a prediction than anything else from you, since you do follow this. December 1st, do we have a lengthy lockout, or do we even have a season next year?
I think we will have a lengthy lockout for sure. I think that is basically guaranteed. I am hopeful that it will play out somewhat similar to the last one, where it gets resolved at some point in March, and we do still have a season. I know that the vibes are bad, and Major League Baseball is trying to cast all this doom and gloom sort of thing. But I do think that there is just too much money to lose. Baseball, as much as the league is talking about the problems of competitive balance and all this, they are making money hand over fist. It's billions and billions of dollars, and I don't think that they really want to be losing all that revenue. So I am hopeful.
You mean to tell us that money is involved in all of this? We're shocked. Darragh, thank you. Thank you very, very much from all of us for taking time to be with us. Most enlightening, and we wish your future is going to be a golden one, too. Thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That's Darragh McDonald, BaseballRumors.com, visiting with us from Toronto. We'll take a quick time out on the starting lineup. Be right back. I found that interview with Mr. McDonald to be very, very interesting. Did you guys join that?
Oh, I thought he did a great job, very thorough in his knowledge. And like you said, even to be able, of course, if you do that for a living, you have to pay attention to what's going on in the minor leagues, because those are the people a lot of times that are being traded for major league players for the future.
Arthur, do you have any thoughts on what deals might be forthcoming?
Well, I think he pretty well covered them just now. And I mean, there'll be others, be myriads of deals, but yeah, he answered in great detail, and I, too, was particularly impressed at his knowledge of Rodriguez being with the Springfield Cardinals.
You've seen him play. What are your thoughts on him?
Oh, he's a stud.
Yep.
I mean, can't believe he's just 19 years old. He's a big leaguer.
I watched him a little bit of the game last night, and not only from a physical standpoint, but from a player standpoint, he's very mature. He knows exactly what to do with it, but he looks much older than 19. But.
Well, coming from that country, he could be older than 19. I mean, I say that in jest, but we all, had suspicions for years about, even Albert Pujols came under some suspicion to how old he actually was.
Do you ever hear those suspicions, Art?
Well, yeah. I mean, when he showed up for the Legion baseball tournament here in Springfield, allegedly a high schooler, and hit the ball up on the roof of Glendale High, that kind of hard to believe that was a 18-year-old.
1997 is when that happened, and that was the late and greatly lamented 4th of July Legion tournament that we had here in town. They used every field imaginable for all that competition. I think he was Independence High Boys, if I remember correctly. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
And he blasted it. I personally did not see it. It was on a Saturday morning during that holiday, and he stuck one in the nether regions of Glendale High School.
Yes, he did.
And it was one for the record books, too. Imagine that it really, it kind of permeated the entire baseball scene back then. Arthur, do you have a big weekend coming up?
Well, yeah, going to Denver.
You are going out to Colorado. How long are you going to be out there, if I can ask?
Yeah, just Saturday, Sunday, so we're leaving later today. Going to see the Royals play, too.
Yeah, coincidentally, the Royals are out there.
Yeah, not coincidentally, but I say almost embarrassedly now after yesterday. It was just awful.
Well, I was going to ask if you were thinking about boycotting that trip after what you went through yesterday. I guess as any Royals fans, or just even in baseball in general, that's not something that's ever been done before, and that's a rarity.
It really is. In all of Major League Baseball, for a team to be down 3, bottom of the last inning, 2 out, 2 strikes, and a walk-off grand slam. Never happened until yesterday. But the Royals were able to pull that off.
Which they will include in their inglorious history department.
Were you a little bit surprised to hear him say that they were looking to keep Lugo and Waka? Because I thought those might be 2 of the people that would be the first ones to be traded as they looked for the future.
Yeah, I thought so, too. Now, J.J. Piccolo has been pretty adamant that he doesn't want to move those. And, so you're going to have 36, 35-year-old guys in your rotation next year. Maybe so. But I would not be surprised if they get a good deal if they trade one of them.
I want to talk about the weekend coming up, too. You mentioned the Royals are out there, of course, so you're going to go to see the game. But this is going to continue a streak for you, or at least add to it. You might talk about the stadiums you've attended games.
Well, this will be the last one. I will have been to all 30 current Major League ballparks, and my son will have been to 29. So that's why we're going.
That's it. That's what
is to get that ballpark.
You and Stillwell, my goodness sake, I don't know how you guys do that. Amazing. Absolutely.
Well, it's been over many years.
Oh, yeah, sure. But still, you've had the opportunity to do that. What's your favorite one?
Fenway.
Of course.
Yeah.
When you went to Wrigley, were the Cardinals playing there then?
One time they were. I've been there several times. One time we were up there when McGuire was holding fourth, hitting his home runs, and that was about 97 or so. And, yeah, we had a good time that day.
That wasn't the time. I was going to say that wasn't the time that Marty Prather almost got you guys both killed with his signs out there. Right?
No.
Okay.
Different time. But I had been up to do a Missouri State Bradley baseball game on Saturday. It was a doubleheader. And back then, we didn't broadcast the Sunday games because we had NASCAR on the station. So I took advantage of that by running up to Wrigley on Sunday afternoon and seeing the Cardinals and the Cubs.
You know what? I had completely forgotten that. That's right. NASCAR was on the radio at that time, too. And still is, for that matter, but not necessarily here. How about that? You got a chance to go to Wrigley for a Cardinals-Cubs game.
Always looking for chances.
There's the key right there. Well, you'll have a good time out there. We're going to take a brief break and then talk a little bit about the Sneaker Soiree. All that is coming up. You're listening to The Starting Lineup. And the Starting Lineup is brought to you by Play It Again Sports, by Citizens Bank of Rogersville, by Swing Right Golf, and by Marshfield Chevrolet. I'm Ned Reynolds along with
Dwight Glenn.
Art Hains.
And indeed, a special guest. And that special guest is Paige Grisham. She is from Missouri State University, and she is the... Now, don't take this wrong, Paige, but you are the chief tub thumper for Sneaker Soiree, which is coming up. Thanks for being with us, Paige. Things progressing all right?
Yeah, things are rolling around. We are rocking and rolling right now, and it is just crazy, right? In our offices, at the arena, like we have stuff almost ready to go at this point. It's been really exciting, and we've had a lot of really great volunteers helping us this week, just kind of load stuff in, get everything arranged and organized, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun on Saturday night for the 40th Annual Sneaker Soiree.
That is hard to believe. This is the 40th renewal for these. It wasn't Sneaker Soiree when it began back in the late 1970s, early 80s, whatever the first
86.
year was. Is that when it was? 86?
87, actually.
87. And Mark McGuire was
That's
not
right.
even hitting home runs then. Anyway, I remember it. We had it at Hammond Center. And you remember it, Art, and it was the big garage sale. Do you remember the initial event?
Well, there was a garage sale before that.
Yeah.
But that was the first all-sports auction.
Correct.
In 87. They sent a little advanced scouting party of us to Wichita the year before to check out theirs because they already had one established. And we took some ideas from that in incorporating this one.
And Paige, what are some of the ideas that Art just mentioned that will be forthcoming tomorrow night?
Yeah, so we are going to have some really special stuff going on in our program. We're going to have some incredible live auction items, a trip to Cabo, a trip to Florida, and then just some exclusive experiences like we're going to do lunch with our swim coaches. They're kind of a big deal right now. They've always been a big deal, but we've got a new guy in the house, so that's an exciting one. Coach for the day for the Lady Bears, football. All kinds of really cool live auction items that you can't get anywhere else. And then the silent, we've got around 200 items that are upstairs. That's baskets. We've got an electric dirt bike this year. We've got some furniture, just all kinds of different cool, unique things. A lot of Missouri State things, but a lot of things that are, not Missouri State specific either. And so it's really an opportunity to bring folks out in the community and just bring everyone together for a fantastic event supporting Missouri State Bears.
And this is all in the Great Southern Bank Arena, is that correct?
It sure is. Yeah, we are in Great Southern Bank Arena. This is the third year in a row we've been back and in the same kind of setup. And so that's been working really well for us. This event, like you guys said, it has been kind of everywhere. It's, I believe one of the first ones was also at a Sheraton Hotel here in town. And then it has been at the Convention Center, at UP. It has been in Hammond Student Center, and now Great Southern Bank Arena. So it's gone by different names and done different things, but all in all, it has been this amazing thing that Coach Bill Rowe has really, championed and put together and been involved in the very beginning. So it's going to be a really special night.
Art, you know fully well it wouldn't exist without Coach Rowe.
Oh, no. Now, I remember that first year I was here in 85, 86, and I literally went with him to people's garages and loaded things, and then he would sweep their garage afterward when we'd take things and had it in the East Gym at Hammond's. But from those humble beginnings, this has really become an event.
It has indeed. Of course, back in those events, there were some scattered food vendors, I would suspect. But, Paige, there are more than scattered ones for this event.
There are, yeah. We've got about 7 food vendors, everyone from Mexican Villa to Bambinos to billiards. You're going to get your full spread of different food types, and then tons of desserts, Village Inn pies, insomnia cookies. There's just so many things that you can enjoy and just walk around the arena while you're looking at items and bidding on items. You can eat, drink, be merry, and interact with all of us, all of our coaches who will be there. So it's a great kickoff event for the season, for the fall.
I've got a couple of buddies who are former Bears athletes coming down from St. Louis, and they're very much anticipating a big night. And speaking of the big night, just exactly what is the chronological rundown that you have? When does it all begin?
Yeah, so doors are going to open at 5:30. So that'll be, you'll check in, you'll get your bidder number, get you registered. If you haven't bought tickets, you can buy tickets at the door. They're $40 per person. And then we will have all of the silent auction items open for bidding starting at 5:30. Those are going to start to close around 6:40, 6:45. So you want to get there early to put your bids in for some of our silent items. Food bar is going to be open at 5:30 as well. And then around 7:15, depending on how our traffic is flowing, we're going to move downstairs on the floor of Great Southern Bank Arena. We've got 60 tables down there, a stage, and we're going to do some amazing programming, a look back on the last 40 years, but also do our live auction items. And it's going to be a lot of fun this year. We're really excited.
Paige, there may be some, probably very few, but some lower echelon IQs like me who are familiar with or not familiar, I should say, with the bidding process, especially in the silent auction. Is it done electronically?
It's not. So we have mostly traditional bid sheets. So you're going to get a bidder number, and that's going to be what you physically write down on a lot of these silent auction items. Now, we do have a small category. It's about it's almost 20 items this year of what's called our featured category. It's kind of those almost live but not quite items. And, they're really good, but they're just not quite there. So we take those and we actually put those online. And so those are open for bidding right now. I actually just got an outbid notification on something I've been bidding on this morning. And so you can go online. You can go to MissouriStateBears.com, and there's links to the athletic auction, I believe under Fan Central, and you can go check out those right now. Those close for bidding on Saturday night at 7:30. So we do have a little bit of online. If you're not going to be able to make it out to the event, you can do that. But most everything is going to be in-person bidding, traditional bid sheets, and it is a lot of fun.
That description of almost live but not quite, gosh, did that hit home. Artur, do you have any questions, Art?
Every time I hear online, I think of basketball coach Jake Hedrick used to say online.
Online.
Hey, Paige, kind of off the subject, but are you all still at the Alumni Center?
We are. So as you can see, my office is starting to get a little bit more and more cleared out. I still have auction stuff behind me, but we are in the process of moving. We are packing things up. We've got to have everything packed up by September 4th, which is the day before we play Texas A&M. If you're not tracking on that, I am, and so we're going to be moving that first week of September over to our new building, the Cliff Smart Advancement Center, and so that's right on the corner of National and Bear Boulevard. It's a gorgeous building. We're not going to really open to the public for a little while. We are going to do a lot of big public grand opening stuff the week of homecoming in November, and so it's a busy time around here. There's been a lot of organized chaos in the Alumni Center.
Do you have any information, Paige, on what happens to the building you're leaving?
So Community Foundation of the Ozarks bought the building from us, that was probably 3 years ago now. Time flies. And so they own the building currently. So the deal we worked out was we get to stay until our building is complete. And so they are all on the fourth floor, Community Foundation is, and so they have different tenants and stuff that are moving in and are wanting to move into our spaces. And so I don't know who that's going to be, different offices moving in, but there won't be any Missouri State folks in this building come September. So.
And you do move over to the new facility, the Cliff Smart Center, and again, that's located where?
It's at the corner of National and Bear Boulevard. It's right across the street from our Welcome Center.
But in the meantime, you're located at the Great Southern Bank Arena tomorrow night, right?
We are, yeah. We are.
The doors open at what time?
Doors are going to open at 5:30 tomorrow night.
What kind of a crowd do you anticipate?
You know, we've sold 60 tables. They seat 10 apiece. So if my math serves me right, that's at least 600 people. So I think that's pretty good. It's going to be a full crowd, and we're looking forward to seeing some folks. You know, it's again that kickoff to the season, and so it's a lot of seeing people we haven't seen since the end of basketball. So it'll be great.
We are very much appreciative of your being a part of the show, and much good luck tomorrow night and from here on in. Thank you, Paige.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's Paige Grisham from Missouri State University, and she is talking a little bit about the Sneaker Soiree, the 40th Sneaker Soiree, which begins tomorrow night, and, of course, it's all tomorrow evening at the Great Southern Bank Arena. We'll take a quick time out on the starting lineup and be right back. And we are in the stretch run of today's edition of the starting lineup. Interesting to hear Mike Holmes talk a little bit about the St. Louis Blues. They will be starting at probably in another month and a few weeks, maybe 6 or 7 weeks, their training camp. And then they'll get underway with exhibition games. And their season, the National Hockey League season, starts in very, very early October, like October 2nd, I think it is. I think they are going to have a very good team. Or do you follow the Blues to any great extent?
Yeah, I do. And they came on tremendously the last 2 months of the season. It was just too late. But I think they'll have a good year this year.
I was thinking about, if I can indulge a personal note here, of making maybe a little bit of wager on the Blues going into, not necessarily winning Stanley Cup, but getting into the playoffs, which they did not get into last year. I think they are a sure bet to do that.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
And let's talk a little bit about Mr. Glenn here, who is visiting
good
with us.
Lord.
Mr. Glenn will be back with us on Tuesday.
And more radio stations are being turned right now.
Tuesday and Thursday of next week is your next scheduled appearance here. Of course, you're known as the road manager or manager period for the Ozark Mountain Daredevils.
Infamously, but yes.
What is the schedule now?
Well, people thought when we did those 2 years of touring, we called the final tour, and from a touring standpoint, it really was. We did 101 shows over those 2 years. It was great. We went to a lot of cities the band had not been to in many, many years, and got to see a lot of old friends, and the band's still really good. So we got to the end of November, and we did our third show at Juanita K, and nobody wanted to quit. Mm-hmm. So we're being scarce. We're more expensive. We're not going to lie about that. It takes more to get us to go out on the road, but we have 3 gigs coming up at the end of August. We go to Chattanooga, Augusta, Georgia, and then Tybee Island, Georgia. And then we do our 2 usual shows at Wildwood Springs Lodge in Steelville, Missouri. This will be year 20 of doing those. And then we have a Kansas City show at the American Ameristar Casino in November, and that'll wrap up this year, and then we're going to book a few shows for next year. You know, we're all day to day, Ned, so we don't want to get our skis too far out in front of us, but we've been fortunate with good health. We've lost people. You know, we lost Larry, we lost Steve Cash. That's just the nature of a band being around for 54 years. But the people that take the stage love playing with each other. It's infectious. The crowd can sense it. We've been able to do such a variety of things, playing with the symphony. We played the Washington Mall on July 4th. You know, we played the Ryman Auditorium. So we still have something to say. We still have something to sing. So why not?
How many of the original Daredevils are there?
It's Soup and John would be the two that were there from day one. Now, Bill Jones, our horn player, was a big part of the early formative years of the band, but he was playing with Granny's Bathwater, and they got a national tour, so he went with them and didn't join the Daredevils. Rural Chappell took over for Buddy Brayfield when Buddy left to become a doctor back in '76, so he's been around the band for 30, 40 plus years if you add them all together. Dave, everybody in the current band, let me cut to the chase, there's 4,000 of us on stage. We'll be here till 10 if I go through everybody. But everybody that is currently taking the stage, the 10 people have been with this formation of this band since 2012.
In that whole scheme of things, though, there have been some innovative projects like the one with the symphony. I had the great pleasure with your invitation of being a part of that. That was a big deal.
It was a big deal. It was very well received. And for Bill Jones to take on the task of writing 17 charts for our songs, which he would have a better understanding of than having AI do it or sending it off to New York to have it done. But for him to write the individual pieces for 50 symphony players, that was a huge undertaking. And we were frankly scared to death because you don't jam with a symphony. You have to actually count, all the way to 4. So we worked with Kyle Wiley-Pickett, who was very kind and generous with his time, to kind of babysit a band that had been around for 50 years into something they had never done before. And I think by the nature of us having done it 4 or 5 times now, I think we know it was well received.
Maestro Wiley-Pickett, with whom we worked quite extensively over many years, big sports fan. This is a commonality. Soup is a big sports fan. You had them athletics has always been a part of that. Oh,
well, athletes want to be musicians and musicians want to be athletes. You see all these musicians like Alice Cooper and Bill Murray, they just want to play golf. Darius Rucker, and all of these, musicians, they want to be baseball players or basketball players or football players, but they all have their individual talents. And, we've been able to work with so many other bands through the years. And occasionally you will run across somebody that's not so nice, but most people are grateful. We know getting to play music 54 years into this journey is a privilege, and we do not take that for granted.
And I would certainly hope nobody ever does, because it's a genuine gem.
Now, I've got breaking news. Well, I better not share it. I don't know if I can share it. Well, I think I can, because I signed off on it. I got a note the other day from Universal Music, which controls our catalog from the first 6 albums that were done on A&M Records. And if a TV show, an advertisement, a cartoon, whatever the case may be, wants to use one of those songs, we have to approve it. We still have our writers' control over it. So they can't just go willy-nilly give it to everybody and it get abused. Well, we got a request for Jackie Blue to appear in a movie. So I start going through to see which movie it was. Well, it's Brad Pitt's follow-up, the movie he's doing with Quentin Tarantino, to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So Jackie Blue is going to be in a production coming out, I believe, in November of a Brad Pitt movie.
Wow. Dwight, who is the young lady that you've added to the band?
Molly Healy, our very talented fiddle player, vocalist. She plays cello with us during the symphony, and it's become the point now that we work around her schedule more than she works around ours, because she works really hard to try to get her own individual career. But when Steve Cash left, somebody had to take that place in the middle of the stage, and we think she's done a great job.
The movie that you talked about, the one involving Brad Pitt, is that currently in production?
I think they're doing the wrap-up. That's when they have to get approval for things like this. So when we saw which movie it was and who the star was, and that's a big movie. That's not just an independent movie that's only going to be played in Clever. I mean, this is going to be a national release, and for Brad to be a part of it. And we've heard through the years that Mr. Pitt might be a fan of the Daredevils.
Do you think that's right?
I don't think it's wrong. They asked to use a song, didn't they? Now, I know that movie is set in the 70s, so it makes there's a logic to it, because Jackie Blue was a #1 hit in 1975.
Who wrote it?
Larry Lee and Steve Gash. And there's a famous story about that, but I'm sure we're boring people to death with this stuff.
Well, they were very, very talented individuals, and that is an iconic song, as is Chicken Train and Stairway to Heaven. And
if you want to get to heaven, not Stairway to Heaven, that's a different band, Ned.
That's also a serial on TV.
Yeah. No, I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, so I look forward to the update.
Yeah, I have to admit, Art, that I didn't know that they were doing an update, so I started to do some research, and I think it's coming out in November on a national release, and then I think it goes to Netflix like everything else does about a week after that. But you know what would be cool is if Brad wanted to do the international movie premiere in Springfield. I know a band that would probably show up.
Yeah.
Do indeed. And play that song.
Well, if it pays well enough, Ned. We don't give it away for free. No, it's a tremendous honor to be asked to do something of that magnitude, and somebody in that camp, whether it be Brad or somebody else, recognizes probably the tie between Springfield, Missouri, and the Ozark Mountain Daredevils.
And he certainly would, indeed. And Arthur, you would go to a film like that, would you not?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just to hear the song, if nothing else. Jackie Blue.
Well, it's amazing how those things work, because I've wondered for years. You were talking about Chicken Train. Well, it seems like there's a fast food chicken restaurant every corner. Why aren't they not using Chicken Train in a national television campaign?
Well, I'll tell you where else it played too. And Art and I were doing a basketball game one night at the old Hammond Center, and of course the place was filled.
I know what you're going to say, and I've got a story.
We may not have enough time to do it, but real quickly, they're playing Chicken Train as the team, I guess, coming out or whatever this is.
Well, they might have done that, but I thought you were going to talk about when the San Diego Chicken came to Hammond's.
It may have been when it was.
Yeah, and that's because he had asked permission from Steve Cash to use that song, and he said, how much money would it take? And Steve goes, why would you even want to pay me for it?
That's beautiful. That is so. They were really iconic days. So I don't want to go back, and we only have a few seconds remaining. But when the San Diego Chicken here, that was a very big draw, and huge crowds were on there.
I was in charge of him too.
Were you the one who made the contact?
It was fun working with Ted and his people, and each time I had to get 4 little kids be the baby chickens that went behind him on one of his routines. So. My son got to do that a couple times.
Gang, we're out of time. Thank you very much for being with us. Hope you've enjoyed our little visit with nostalgia. I'm Ned Reynolds.
Dwight Glenn.
Art Hains.
And we thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Art, we're in the stretch run, and around the turn they come, and
down the stretch they come.
And we will see you all next week right here on the starting lineup.
See ya.